and welcome to DeepDive Talent Insights and Analytics channel. This is I Think I Love My Job. These are our Think Differently Conversation series, and I am Kalifa Oliver, your resident expert in all things employee experience here at DeepDive. Today we're going to talk about transformations. I know in our last series we talked about transformation and what is a transformation and how to support the employee experience with a transformation, but one of the things I want to talk about is transformations have to have end dates. Potentially an unpopular opinion, but I promise you it's the truth. If a transformation does not have an end date, it is not a transformation, it is an organizational failure. I know, before you get mad at me, hear me out. Transformations mean that an organization is trying to transform into something, whether it's a departmental restructure, merger and acquisition, growth. You know, it's trying to get from plan A to plan B, point A to point B, right? A transformation, let's go back to elementary school. Transformation, when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. If that caterpillar goes into that cocoon and never comes out, it did not transform into anything. that is not a transformation. That is just a caterpillar going into a cocoon and, you know, sleeping there. A lot of the issues I hear from a lot of organizations and organizational leaders and organizational employees about transformations is that it never seems to end. I have been in some organizations where we have taken off and we have not landed yet. It is years later. You still haven't landed. It is really stressful and unfair to your employees when you have a transformation that never ends, that never changes, that you can't learn lessons from what you were doing. You can't understand where point A and point B are, or even point C. It's very difficult to exist in a reality like that. And anybody who's been through a transformation knows that there's several concerns and several things that end up impacting the employee experience. Everything from wondering whether you'll still have a job, wondering where you'll land, wonder if you'll still be needed by the company and still suited for what you do, wondering if you'll get a promotion, wondering if people around you are going to go, wondering what it actually means, wondering what a future state will look like. Well, you need to get to a future state. So I know it sounds harsh to say that if you are in a transformation and you just keep on going, that it just becomes an organizational failure. That's what it is. If you are constantly in this one state of constant transformation, you are just in chaos because it feels chaotic. The experience is chaotic. And so I know that many organizations with the best of intentions decide, well, let's try something new. And that is fantastic. You want to constantly push the boundaries and push the limits. But there's a point where you've got to stop and decide, is this worth it? Did we learn anything? Do we know where we're going to? Did we need to pivot? And be transparent about that. Transparency is super important to transformation, because what happens a lot in transformation is when this end never comes, your best talent goes first. Because, and I'll say this from the mountaintops, your best talent has the most options. In case somebody didn't hear me, your best talent has the most options. And when you add the element of stress to some of your best talents and uncertainty, then they are like, I'm out. Transformation should not be a test of loyalty. It is only supposed to be an organizational change to improve the outcomes that an organization is trying to get to. if you're not getting to something, you've got to pause and really reassess whether or not the strategy that you have implemented is working. There are things that are going to impact organizational transformations. You know, for numbers, 2020, right? I'm sure that seriously impacted some of the transformations organizations were trying to make, but it also came with some pauses. Let's pause and reassess. Okay, we were looking at our location strategy, and here we are. We got to send people home for their own safety, right? We have to put a pause on this transformation and really reassess what we're doing. A lot of companies had to end up doing that. In the last year, a lot of organizations had to pause and reassess where they were in terms of their strategy, in terms of their transformations. And that is a good thing. Sometimes it's okay to say, I don't know that this transformation is working, and not double down on it. Or I don't know if we're heading in the right direction. Or I don't know when the end date is. Transformation is hard. Transformation is tough. And it's not to take away from anybody who has to lead a transformation. It's hard. It takes a lot, and it can take a lot out of you. But recognize the toll that it takes on your actual organization. It creates not just stress on your employees, it just creates stress within your organization. There is a lot of reputational damage that can come from a badly done or poorly executed transformation, or transformation that is perpetual. And I know somebody out there has been a part of a perpetual transformation and know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm here to say, when you're building out your strategy for a transformation, you gotta build in some reassessment points. You've gotta figure out whether things make sense. You've gotta be transparent. You've gotta figure out if you need to pivot. You've got to have an end, or you don't have a transformation. You have chaos. Chaos is not good for the employee experience, and that probably goes without saying. The longer your transformation effort goes, the more likely you are to start just losing talent. The likelihood is that even some of your mid-tier talent that could go either way, you know, have some measure of, I could stay here, I could eat. they're gonna have enough. People have so much that they can do, right? It impacts your technologies. Your technology even keeping up with what you're saying to do. You have people who sit in there just kind of twiddling their thumbs trying to figure out, where do I fall and where do I land? And in many, many, many cases, transformations don't end well for the people who stuck with you. That is just a reality of how transformations go. And so I'm just here to highlight the fact that if you're looking at your employee experience, if you are committed to what that should feel like and look like, and you want to maintain the culture, if you're even trying to build a culture, starting transformation efforts that have no end in sight, that's not a transformation that you're planning. You are planning for change, and with no end or even estimation of what you expect to be an end date, then that's just chaos and organizational failure. Can you imagine if, you know, somebody who is your accountant, for example, is like, well, I'm in transformation, so you'll get your check sometime. We'll figure it out. You're not going to be a fan of that transformation, are you? Well, that's how it feels to a lot of your employees. That's how it feels to a lot of your employees. So I want you to really take a look at your transformational efforts. Really think about how to maintain transparency during that process, and reassess your time points, and recognize that the longer it takes and the less and lesser end comes into view, the more likely you are to harm your organization and harm your own transformational efforts. And at the end of the day, once you get to a point where the transformation is not happening, then it's no longer really seen or is, in fact, a transformation. You can stop calling it that now. That's it for today. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me more. Have you been a part of a transformation? Did you leave an organization during a transformation? At what point did you say enough was enough? When did you not see it as a transformation anymore? If you like this discussion and you like what you see and hear, just feel free to hit subscribe. I'm happy to have you on the team. And don't forget, there is always room for a brilliant experience. Bye.